What do you think would be the best way to handle this COVID-19?
So the COVID-19 is the unexpected, is the unknown. And you could say that for a lot of things. When you're going through your health, there's a lot of unknowns. There are diseases that people might have that there's not much known about, or there's just, how do you know how you're going to respond to this particular treatment? Health has a lot to do with genetics, like you brought up, our baseline level of activity, our nutrition, and just dumb luck. But if there's another aspect that we can add on top of it, which is sort of the power of positivity, or hope that things will turn out the right way, and that you do kind of accept what you have, your back pain perhaps, but you decide to accept it and go along, you treat it, but you also go ahead in life, and you don't take it necessarily a big pause, or you don't despair. I think that puts patients further in the driver's seat. And what I think we should do is we should ask more from our patients rather than have them depend so much on our treatments. Tell them, no, look, and it's difficult to say, and I actually think that the more difficult part of this whole conversation that we're having is having it with people who have those issues. And it can come off as completely insensitive to kind of bring up these topics like, hey, I think you just need to lighten up.
Yeah.
But I think we need a way to talk about it, and that's why I feel like we have to sort of divorce ourselves from this term placebo effect and talk about what it is, which is, it's really the synchronicity of our psychobiology. It's basically when our psych is connecting with our biology, our positive thoughts are now heading into positive expression of those thoughts, literally in terms of neurotransmitter release, hormone release, and symptomatically feeling better. It's just one more step in the right direction. But to go back to the original point, I think people have to do what they feel is comfortable to deal with the coronavirus based on their own health situation, but also try to maintain a life worth living. Assuming that this might not change anytime soon. I heard someone talking on the LA Times sort of podcast yesterday that they were gonna basically say the next 2 years are ruined, and I'm just gonna have to deal with the next 2 years as being alone. I'm gonna have to be alone, and life is just gonna be so different.
It's
and
horrible.
We have to adapt to what we have now, and in all situations, not just coronavirus, but if you have cancer or whatever. And that will put you in the first step towards getting towards betterment or health.
I agree totally, and to echo what you just said, the mindset is one of, as far as my opinion goes, this is our new normal. It doesn't matter what was yesterday. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here yet. We only have today, right?
Right.
So, but if we accept that this is our new normal and we manage our life accordingly, then our expectations are set correctly, and the idea that we will be overwhelmingly let down is absent. If you set yourself up for failure, that's exactly what's going to happen. There's no myths about this, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. If you tell yourself you're going to lose, you're going to fail, yeah, you are. So what do you want to do? Do you want to be unhappy? Or would you rather be happy and this is how we live today? You know, look, when this whole thing started, I love social gatherings. I love to be in dinners with 25 people. And I enjoy all the conversations and being able to move from place to place to place and get the multi-generational conversations. But obviously that wasn't going to happen. So then it came to my two best friends and we all got brand new bikes and we started riding bikes because that was one way of maintaining exercise. We couldn't go to gyms anymore. Now, I wasn't unhappy about it. Actually, I was kind of happy because this time I got to see trees and ocean and everything that was outdoors that I normally never see, except in the inside of my car. Right. So it wasn't such a bad deal, honestly. I was not disappointed. Now, granted, you know, they're the lifting weights and all that kind of stuff, and that social aspect of going to the gym and, you know, observing beautiful people all over the place, that was absent for sure. You know, darn. Anyway, so no more yoga, and I was bummed out about that too. But anyway, so what then happened was, what do you do when you're going to go eat, right? You're either we cook at home more often, which is also kind of great. And the other thing that we did was we would have tailgate picnics. And it wasn't horrible. I ended up buying this thing that looks like a gun case that turns into a picnic table with a little umbrella and everything, and you're in a parking lot somewhere and you're having a sandwich, and it's like not bad. I mean, it was...
I want to see this case.
Okay, I'll show you. It's in the car. It's great.
I think a lot of people have kind of claimed 2020 is the worst year ever.
Yeah.
And it can be fun. It can be fun to talk about it that way. But truthfully, I could see how circumstances for every person might have a circumstance where it is the worst year, but collectively, could we say this is the worst year ever? I don't think so.
No,
for sure, it's definitely not for me. And it sounds like we're all adapting to the situation. And like you were saying, you discovered the outdoors life. And similarly myself, I never owned a pair of hiking shoes until this year.
Wow.
Never went on a full day hike, and almost died because I had never hiked before. But because of this strange circumstance, I've been able to enjoy different things. But the same things as before have changed a little bit. But definitely not, we can't say this is the worst year ever. What happens when it really is the worst year ever?
Right.
Yeah?
I mean, for me, the definition of the worst thing would be scarcity, right?
Yeah.
What's scarce besides toilet paper?
Well, yeah.
And that was artificial anyway. That was a bunch of people hoarding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could never understand that.
Meat, dairy, fruits, vegetables, all that never went out of supply. I mean, I never wanted for anything. In fact, I'm fat. I've gained weight since the COVID diet has been great for me.
How much weight did you gain?
Oh, at least 15 pounds. At least.
Wow.
Yeah. Whatever you guys think you lost, I found it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Thanksgiving coming up right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what if people knows that it's placebo effect? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that's now we're talking about current day.
Right.
What are they studying current day? So they're actually doing these trials called open placebo trials, where they are actively telling people, "Hey, you're taking a placebo. It's a sugar pill, but there's a strong connection between the mind and the body. So keep taking that pill, no matter what, for 2 or 3 weeks, and let's see how it happens." And they found for different, it's still kind of early in the stages, but they tested people with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, and those people started feeling better after 3 weeks. They compared it with the group that was just continuing the normal treatments. They felt better, and then do you know it's placebo? Yeah, we know it's placebo, but I don't know, just having less symptoms. They did it with chronic low back pain too. The people with low back pain started feeling better after 3 weeks. Now, is this, were they following them for like a year later? No, those studies haven't been done yet. But the fact that people knowingly are being told, hey, this is a sugar pill, just kind of shows you that there's something about that interaction between maybe medical provider, patient, being involved in a group, being told that, hey, there is some effect, mind-body connection, that generally just people are happier and symptomatically better. Now, are they objectively different? I think that's the main thing. But does it matter if you are objectively the same, but subjectively better? If I'm 90 years old, I'm 90 years old, right? I can't change that reality. Maybe, hopefully, right, with the medications and the treatments, maybe there is something that is disease modifying or age modifying. But if I'm gonna be 90, I would want to be the best 90 that I can be. Which, if you're telling me it's just this mind-body connection, well, let me invest in that.
So there's a few things that I think we sort of grazed over with respect to the placebo effect and how it has been studied and what it was used for initially. And you touched on the fact that initially it was used primarily to evaluate the efficacy of some molecule, some drug. And basically what they would do is they would have 2 sets of patients in a double blind, and they would give them, one got the actual active molecule and one got the inert nothing. And they were told nothing, and the scientists they didn't know either. It was all basically in hidden envelopes, who was who. And then you evaluate at the end, how well did it work? And you compare the placebo, which should have nothing, that should be your baseline null hypothesis, versus the active ingredient, which you would like it to be effective, but you're assuming it isn't. And then you make the comparison. Well, that was the standard. It was the gold standard forever for drugs. Now, with the advent of people like Dr. Saby, you collect information about how lots of different things affect people and how they improve the conditions that they have. And then what they found out was just because some drug had a certain effect didn't necessarily mean that it was actually that efficacious, because the placebo effect is real even in them.
Right.
And so this is something you have to consider, because as he mentioned, you can give somebody a drug that is sugar. It is nothing. It could be a completely inert talc nothing, and tell them, as he mentioned, just take it and let's see what happens. It's going to help. Believe it or not, it does.
Yeah, because when you
Power
believe
of
it,
the mind. Exactly.
it's
Brain
all about
chemistry.
the brain.
Exactly. And so brain communicates with the rest of the body, and the rest of the body listens. And so it's very important why you tell yourself good things as well, because the rest of the body listens. Anyway, so now they realize that effect has to be considered, that lots and lots of drugs that may seem like miracle drugs aren't. And the main reason that they're working is because the patients want them to.
There was an interesting story just a few years back about deep brain stimulators for Parkinson's patients. And in this story, National Geographic, they talked about this one individual who was in a study, and he got the deep brain stimulator. His Parkinsonism completely went away. He was able to walk and enjoy life, and all these things that he'd been suffering through for 9 years with this Parkinson's diagnosis completely disappeared. And then they told him a few months later, you actually didn't get the deep brain stimulator.
Wow.
And he said,
Gotcha.
I don't care. I feel great. Wasn't bothered at all. So it's just, and it's not everyone responds to this sort of effect. There are some people who are, quote, responders, and there are people who are not. It's to say that in addition to investigating these different treatments, we should also be pushing this line as a form of treatment itself, which is this belief or this synchronicity of our psychobiology. If anyone has a good term, by the way, for how we can, replace placebo effect, I am more than open, because I feel that we talk about placebo, we talk about imaginary things, things that are not real. But when we talk about mind-body connection, psychobiology, we're talking about real things.
What puzzles me I've been in the healthcare space for about 11 years now. So if this is what I don't understand is, why don't people know more about this?
So, okay. What's really interesting is when we talk about, and I think you brought up an example earlier as it relates to business or sports, something of that sort. We always talk about in sports and business, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Right.
And we believe it.
Yeah.
We truly believe, if you put limitations, if you think you're not going to make that basketball shot, you're just not going to make it. At least you have a better chance believing you will. For some reason in medicine, we haven't gotten to that point where we can have that conversation and it not feel like some sort of insult. Because you could certainly have the opposite sort of situation where people start to blame the fact that someone has a disease based on their mindset, which is something that I want to make sure we make that distinction. People don't necessarily get breast cancer because they're negative. And they've actually done studies to kind of look at this. Do certain personality types get cancer more than others? So far, no, it hasn't been shown that way. It's just an added layer. Just the same way that nutrition, you might not be able to heal everything with nutrition or exercise. It's just an added layer. So I think we have to sort of thread the needle when we talk about it, because I think we all kind of believe truly that positivity would give you better outcomes. We just don't know, at least as a doctor, we don't really know how to talk with our patients in that sense, and then not have our patients flip out. We just don't have the terminology. And I think placebo is kind of the wrong terminology. That's where we're going to go down the path of, are you telling me that I should just imagine?